Greetings and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, just clicked on to see the review of the stage show, the London stage show of Stranger Things The First Shadow. My name's Lisa, welcome. I'd love if you would hit the little button below and subscribe to the channel. I usually talk about movies, but today we're talking about the stage show at the Phoenix Theatre in London, The First Shadow. So I was lucky enough last weekend to go to London, to travel to London from Northern Ireland to check out this stage show, as the family are all massive fans of Stranger Things. My son, we wanted to get him something as a treat. This was the treat that we decided on for him. So let's talk about a very brief synopsis of what the story's about. I'm not going to give any spoilers, guys, don't worry. And what our thoughts were about both the show and about the theatre. So Stranger Things The First Shadow is actually set before the Stranger Things that we've all seen on the telly. There are characters from the TV show that you will see in the stage show, obviously not paid by the Hollywood actors. We do have Hopper as a young man in this. The story is actually about the origins of Vecna, where Vecna came from. We follow Henry Creel as a young boy with his family moving into the house. We have Joyce here, we have Bob. They're all much younger. I think the show is set in 1959 if I'm not entirely wrong. And there are characters that you will definitely recognise from the show portrayed here. We have the Doctor and the 11, always called Papa, different people that you will recognise. The stage show opens to the Stranger Things music, which is incredible. And we start on a boat with a little bit of dialogue. Now, it takes a little bit to get into the show. This part at the beginning, if you go to see it, is not very long, but the end of the opening of this stage show has got one of the most impressive effects you will see through the stage show. It's absolutely incredible. It's right at the start. You'll be like, how the hell have they done that? We follow that with sort of getting back to basics. We get to the school, we see all the kids, and there's jocks, there's cheerleaders, there's nerds, and we get a real feel of these individual characters and how they factor into the story. Henry Creel is starting his first day at this new school. His family have just moved to the area. We're meeting Joyce, we're meeting Bob, how they were when they were young, and we follow through something a bit odd is going on with Henry Creel, which if you've watched the TV show you will be aware of. And we follow that through to the origins of where Vecna started from, where the experiment started from, where Papa got introduced to these people. Obviously, we know that Henry Creel was number 1 on these experiments. 11, as we know, is number 11. So it shows us the origin of all that and how it all started. So I'll not tell you any more about the story, but that's the story that we're looking at. So what did I think of the show? The acting was absolutely fabulous from everyone concerned. There was a lot of laughs to be had. There were a lot of very somber moments. The actor that plays Henry Creel was absolutely fabulous. My son, who's 13, was blown away by how good this young actor was. For someone that is at that age, 13, to stay focused and transfixed. He's not a fan of shows and things like that, but he loved this. He absolutely loved it. He thought it was fabulous. It really kept his attention. There is not a lot of singing and dancing in this. I know that is a big negative for a lot of people about shows. My son and my husband both hate singing and dancing on stage shows, which is why I very rarely go to the theatre, but this one I was going. Simple. There is a little bit of singing, there is a tiny bit of dancing, but very little, folks. It's mostly just straight acting. There are effects used in this throughout the story of a smaller scale, but very impressive, and something that will really have you thinking, how have they done that? Little things that you'll notice from the corner of your eye. Right at the start, at the end of the opening part, there's a massive big effect that's intense. It's fantastic. You get smaller versions of little effects throughout the story, but the effect they have near the end of the stage show is mind-blowing. You're watching it and you feel like you're watching TV. You feel like you're watching a movie with CGI. You don't know how the hell they've done it. I have no idea how they did it, but it was incredible and implicitly pulled off. So yeah, I would massively recommend to check this out. It may have difficulty to hold very young people's, there were a row of kids in front of us. Now granted, they paid attention the whole way through, But if you have a kid that struggles to kind of, you know, concentrate, that would tend to like, their mind would be away on it, you know, they can't concentrate on one thing, I would say that for young children I wouldn't recommend. There is a number of, there's quite a bit of swearing in it, so if that's an issue for you for really young children, it's not littered with it, but there is quite a few uses of swear language in there. I wouldn't say it's any more frightening than the TV show, so if your kids have seen the TV show, then they should be absolutely fine with this. To me, it will most appeal to adults, to like the era that we're in, 1959. We have a lot of that music, which should really appeal to people from that era. We have like wardrobe, we have the dress from that era, which is fabulous to see. I'm a big fan of like retro outfits and stuff, so that was fantastic. It was nice to see characters that we come to know and love in the show as younger people in this stage show. So it's a big thumbs up from me. Now I do have negatives, but none of those negatives are about the stage show whatsoever. They're all about the theatre itself. I know the stage show can't help that, but I want to give you some warnings if you're intending to go and watch this, and if you're of the taller persuasion or the wider persuasion, I would give you some information about that. So the Phoenix Theatre is an absolutely beautiful theatre. It's the first time we've ever been in it, and I had read something in the reviews about being extremely uncomfortable and having to move about during intermission to allow the blood to flow. Now, some people just like to write crabby reviews, and I didn't pay it too much of a mind until I went to this show. Now, I don't want to whinge, but I do want to warn people that are going to see the show. I want to be fully transparent. Now, I have fibromyalgia and ME. My husband's perfectly healthy, as is my son, and all of us struggled with the seats. We were sitting in the grand circle, which is, you have the floor, then you have the middle, I think it's just called the circle, and then the grand circle is at the top. We were on the second row of the grand circle. I think our seats were B, 17, 18 and 19, just to let you see. I will put in a photograph of like our view of the stage from where we were. I am 5'5.5", and my knees were pushed up against the seat in front of me the whole way through the performance, right down to my shins, not just like a little bit, my knees all the way down. The guy beside me was manspreading, which didn't help matters. But the seats, if you are of the wider variety, now I am not a slim person, but I am not gargantuan. I fit in the seats absolutely fine, but the armrests are tiny, very narrow, so unless you sit like this the whole time, you're going to be like arm to arm the whole way down, contact with the people that sit alongside you. The aircon was barely working. It was a full house when we were in. Occasionally you would get a little bit of what felt like cooler air, but it lasted a few seconds and was gone. We were all sweating, we were all red-faced. I was in absolute agony, and as much as I was enjoying the show, if my son hadn't have started ranting and raving about how much he was loving it at intermission, I would have left at intermission. I was in such a lot of pain. The intermission, I think, was about 20 minutes. The show is round about 3 hours, maybe just a little bit over. So as far as I remember, intermission was a little bit past what would be the midway point. So I think you're almost sat down almost 2 hours. Then there's a 20-minute intermission. Then you've got the final hour of the show. So maybe an hour 40, maybe you were sat, then the 20 minutes, then another hour. But they went out at intermission and got drinks and got an ice cream, which was desperately needed to cool me down. But I had to stand for the entirety of that intermission because I was in such a lot of pain sat on that seat. And having fibro, it's difficult to have to stand when you're in pain, but it was preferable to the pain I had sat down. There's no wriggle movement. You can't get up midway through and leave the seats because everyone is jammed tight against the seat in front of them, so there's no aisle space. If I wanted to get out of my seat, middle of the row, I would have to make every single person that's in the aisle get out and walk out to the middle. Now, you're not actually supposed to move from your seat during the show. If you must move, you are not generally allowed to be admitted again until a certain point in the play, so as not to spoil things for the rest of the audience, which I understand, that's fine. But God love you if you need to get out of that row for any reason in the middle of the show, because every person that sat alongside you is going to have to get out before you, and how embarrassing that would be. But the seats are super uncomfortable. It's an old theatre, there's probably not an awful lot they could do. Maybe take out a couple of rows of seats and space them out a little bit more, because by God was it uncomfortable. My husband was in pain the whole next day also, and he's a perfectly healthy man. Now he is just under 6 foot and he really struggled for leg space. As I said to him, if you were a man of 6'3", 6'4", you're going to struggle fitting in there. If you're like a fat person, I'm a size 18 just to give you an idea, and I just fit. If you are quite a large person, you're going to struggle massively. God help you if you're tall and large. I mean, I don't know how you're going to fit in there. So the show, fabulous guys, but please be aware those seats are not comfortable. I'm not sure if the seats on the ground may be a little bit more comfy. It may be worth contacting the actual theatre to inquire. If you have limited, mobility, if you suffer from a chronic pain issue especially, I wouldn't go and see a show in that theatre again on those seats. I would definitely inquire if there were other more suitable seats. Now, the prices did range quite dramatically. I think the cheapest tickets were about £35, but they were pretty much all restricted view. We bought tickets that were the next stage up, which were £70, I believe. And I wouldn't say the view was completely unrestricted where we were. We had to bend right forward at certain points to try and see certain parts of the stage, but I will put a picture in so you can see. But I don't like to be over negative about the experience. The theatre, I wasn't a massive fan of. It looked beautiful, but comfort-wise, 0 out of 10. The show is fabulous though, guys. So if you're very healthy, very fit, can sit down without discomfort, aren't overly tall or overly fat, you should be absolutely fine. I'll end with showing you a few bits that we bought. Now, it's upstairs. I haven't gone to drag it out. My son and my husband both bought a t-shirt. The black t-shirt with the Demogorgon on the back, with just the print of Stranger Things, the first shadow on the front. That was £25. They both bought one each. I purchased the only one thing I generally purchase when I go to a stage show, which isn't very often, which is the programme, which is, oh, that's something else I'll show you in a minute, which is absolutely beautiful, glossy, and it has that lovely, that smell that new things have. So that was £12. I also bought the Stranger Things bag to put my programme in. I can't actually remember how much that was, guys. I don't think it was that expensive. My son purchased a beanie hat. So we've got Stranger Things, the First Shadow, and London. Got a nice little tag there. It hasn't been worn yet. That was £15. My son also purchased this little pin badge, which was, I believe, £6. Stranger Things, the First Shadow. I think that was all. No, sorry, my son and husband bought these. So they were selling slushies, and you could buy these souvenir drinks holders, which I think are pretty damn cool, you can agree. Now, with full of slushy, these were, I believe, £12 each, which I think is pretty reasonable when you consider that they were full. And I think if you got the slushy in a paper cup, it was like £6. So you're just paying £6 for these drinks holders, which is cool. I kept my little Scoops Ahoy cardboard thing that was around my ice cream. This is the ice creams that were on sale. You can see there were £8 each. My son got this one, which was the much nicer one. They had like bubblegum popping candy on it. This one had like brownie pieces and cherries. Now, Black Forest Gâteau is my favourite dessert, so that's why my husband picked this one for me. The Demogorgon Delight, but this one is significantly better if you're warm and you want a cool down. It had the little Scoops Ahoy thing around the front of it, so I've kept that also. You can also buy salted pretzels, big massive salted pretzels. As far as I remember, there were hot dogs. You could also buy really, really massive either salted or cheese pretzels. I bought one of those. There were like giant cookies. There may have been mostly like nibbly kind of things that you could buy, which were probably a little bit more expensive than you would pay in most places, but they weren't like ridiculous. Those ice creams were £8 each, which I didn't think was actually too bad for like a London theatre. Please, I would recommend at intermission, get up, have a little bit of a walk around, get yourself a drink. It's very warm, it gets very uncomfy, but yeah, that'll do me I think for now. Hopefully you got something from that if you're going to be going to see the show. Don't dress really like in coats or anything like that, you'll have nowhere to put them. Dress quite cool, come wearing something comfy, and enjoy the show because it is absolutely fabulous. Thank you for watching my little bit of waffle. If you've been to see the show, definitely drop a comment below, let me know what you thought. What were your feelings on the theatre? Where were you sitting? Was it any more comfortable where you were? What was the legroom like? I would love to know for any future shows that may be shown there, or for anyone else watching the video. If you've watched the video and you liked it, I would really appreciate a like, or if you're new here, consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Over and out from Lisa Lives.